Welcome to Tech Talent Today, where IT leaders share their tough challenges, creative solutions, and latest insights. You'll discover fresh ideas and inspiration here with your host, IT staffing veteran and president of Claremont Technologies, Jody Kulik-Mayer. And now, here's Jody.
Today, I'm excited to welcome Claremont's own Bonnie Brill to the Tech Talent Today podcast. Bonnie has a diverse background, including roles as a recruiter, career coach, and marketing and content creator. She has taught kids online in ESL, science, and engaging social skills classes. She has an education degree from the University of Delaware, but perhaps her most important role is being a mom to her son, which has given her invaluable real-life training for her passion, helping kids navigate the tricky world of social interaction. For her son, she created a game called Friend Master to help him socially. Now Bonnie expanded her expertise by creating a course for kids 8 to 12 called How to Meet People, Make Friends, and Make Conversation, along with a mini course focusing on starting with the right mindset to build social confidence. We're thrilled to have her here today to share her insights and experiences. Welcome, Bonnie. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Jody. I'm so happy to be here today.
So, how did you get interested in social dynamics?
Yes, thank you for asking. I've definitely been interested in this topic for such a long time. Even growing up when I was, younger, I would always like to observe people and see what makes them connect and how they interacted. I don't know if you ever realize that some people seem to have like an it factor or there's something like charismatic about them. And you're always wondering what is it about them that, makes them so appealing? So that was definitely one start. And then when I would say when I was a young teenager, my uncle married this very charming woman, and everything about her, the way she just looked, dressed, moved, spoke, she would make you feel, she would ask you these questions and she would make you feel very important. She was interested, she was interesting, and I was just very impressed with her. And upon speaking with her, she had mentioned something that she had gone to something called finishing school, which I had never heard of. And I realized after doing a little bit of research and asking her about it, that it was almost like a charm school where they teach you to be socially adept. And I thought, well, that's interesting. That means that these skills are learnable. So I realized that you don't always have to be a direct natural to have these great social skills. She was absolutely like poetry in motion, for whatever that means. She was that. She was just fabulous. And then being in the staffing industry for so long, I realized that these social skills, not only for when you are younger, but how vital they are in the workplace. So not just personally. So a lot of times, we'll notice in staffing that people who get the job in the interview are not always the ones that are the most technically sound. Some of them, it's just what they call their soft skills or their ability to connect with the interviewer or the people in the company. So sometimes just not having a good social base can lose opportunities for you. So you might not even get the chance to do something because of that. And also, when you're within an organization, you'll notice that a lot of times the people who get promoted within the company or get opportunities are the ones that do just socially fit in with the group who, management likes. And I remember actually you had a podcast, I think it was Amy Lackey, who spoke about this, where she mentioned how you really need to make these organizations smaller and really basically socially branch out to really get, ahead of the game. So that was also something that, it occurred to me professionally how important this really is. But I think it all came together when I became a mother. So I think, we become a mother, we start to really, look at our children and we really want for them to, make friends and be socially successful. And being a mother, sometimes brings out a little bit of our, psycho side where I remember going to my son's preschool class, I would get there early and they would be on the playground, all the kids would be playing together and they had a fence. And I remember getting there early and I'm ashamed to say, but I would look in the slats of the fence to see how my son was socially interacting with the other kids. So, I think it's just such an important skill to have. So sometimes, you see your child and, they're doing well and you're, so pleased. And sometimes you see some things that make you cringe or some kind of interaction that makes you cringe. And, you just want to do everything that you can to help. And I think even though it is never too late to learn it, learning it young is important. So for my son, I actually just made up a game. And I know it was a very simple game with index cards and we would role play situations, but you need like a snappy title. So I called it Friend Master because no one wants to like just role play with you. They want to play a game. They want to, a kid wants to play a game. So I called it Friend Master and it all began from that particular game. So that's really how this all got started.
So did the course, I guess, grow out of Friend Master?
Yes, it definitely started with that. And I also want to say that what's important too to consider when your child socially is that some children just don't want to be ultra social. While you might like them to be ultra social and it's important to you, some kids just prefer their own company. And if they're happy, then that is okay. But I think it is important for every child to at least have those tools in their toolbox to use them should they need to, for whatever reason. So just something to consider. My son sometimes he likes to be with people, but he also sometimes prefers his own company, and that's okay too. So, but yes, it all started because of that. And I was teaching online and they started having a very interesting format where they called it flex class or self-paced, where kids can actually learn it on their own. It's not always a live class. And what I thought was so interesting about this format was that kids who are very shy, or if you want to keep going over the material, this gives a format to do that. And this class also is interactive, like I give feedback and like it doesn't sound fun when you say quizzes, but let's just say something to make sure that they absorb the material and like real world experience. So yes, it all did begin from that.
So
So
what are some of the things that are in the course?
yeah, so the course, I tried to make it pretty much like everything you could think of. So I think of it, but there's two parts. There's like, you have to meet people and make friends and talk to them. That's part one. And then there's keeping friends and that's part two. But this course basically covers everything about part one and then touches in a little bit about part two because you can't get to the keeping friends unless you can meet people and make them. So we go over everything that you normally would think of when you think of a social skills course. Of course, body language, conversation starters, I mean, active listening, everything you would think of with a typical course. But I tried to actually go even a step further. So a lot of courses say that your child will build confidence with this course. And it's true because if their social interactions are good and they're getting positive feedback, they absolutely will build confidence. But some kids, and even us as adults, our self-talk completely derails us. So before we even like a child goes into a conversation, they may have had some like negative interactions in the past, and they're just not having good, what I call the self-talk or their narrative in their head. So you go in already with like a negative viewpoint. And as we all know, when you go in with more of like saying, nobody likes me, you're going to behave differently than if you have more of a positive viewpoint. So we start immediately this course with mindset. We do like a fun experiment to like prove that mindset makes a difference in your behavior and how it works. And also with self-talk and classifying it and using a reframing technique to get them in the like right mode to now enter into these interactions. So that's one of the things that is a little bit unique about the class. Also,
Oh, I
oh,
did want to
okay,
make a comment that
sure,
I love that you put mindset in there because I don't know like if that's something like I would have thought about
right.
for like getting the social skills. You're like, I would think, oh, these are the social skills and like these are how you use them. But you're right. For everything to make it work, you have to go in with a positive frame of mind. So I really love that aspect, and that is unique. And I didn't mean to cut you off. What else?
No, that's okay. Thank you. I
Yeah.
think so too. Even for us as adults, sometimes we go in not in the best mindset, even for like an interview, etc. So
Yes.
I think it's a good place to start and to be able to recognize your self-talk and reframe it. But another thing we did is, again, beyond just the basics of what you think of, I use a lot of like scientifically backed research, for example, like mental rehearsal. which is very, important because they're scientifically proven. I think they did with like a lot of athletes, where if they just not even physically doing it, but like mentally say rehearse, like say shooting baskets, whatever the sport is, that they've proven that they actually do better because your brain actually thinks you did it already, and the brain does like the familiar. So I talk about mental rehearsal, where they can rehearse mentally being socially successful in that setting. So we use some of that approach as well as modeling, which I think is really important, whether it's just socially or even professionally, like modeling people who do the skill well and doing what they do. Because like I always say, success leaves clues. So
Mm.
if you see somebody who does things successfully socially, do that. Like I said, with my aunt, how, her tone of voice, the kinds of things she asks, how she handles herself. So that's something we use. And also something called acting as if. So, a lot of more than just, like I said, what you think of as the regular social skills class, like smile, eye contact, which is also very important, but a little stuff that's kind of out of the box. And additionally, besides that, I want to give some quick, easy hits for quick success. So, for example, we do something called like bait on how to bring people like to you, because sometimes it's kids can't always feel comfortable to like go. It takes a lot of confidence to do that. So maybe start small. So with bait, I say, for example, like if you're going to the park or the playground or a recess, if you could bring something where kids might want to go, it could be as simple as a basketball, a frisbee, an art project, anything, as long as they're willing to share it and if your child likes it. And then immediately when people say, hey, can I play? They're coming to you and you now have something in common. So, which I call like a friend detective, where you find out what you have in common with other people so you can build the conversation. So basically, like I said, I try to take some different tacks. But of course, we have the active listening and everything that's vitally important when you're trying to learn social skills.
Right.
And
And
finally, I also don't want to forget to mention that we do something called also real world lab experience. So they actually have like assignments with like a sheet where they actually have to go try this in real life. And what we try to do to depersonalize it a little bit is give checklists and formulas to take all the mystery out of things. Like a conversation starter, there are formulas to starting conversations with people, and why not use that? And checklists are important because it will help depersonalize. Like one of the things we discuss in the course is, which is true for everyone. We're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. Sometimes we go to people and, it's not working out. So it depersonalizes it. We speak about just moving on, shaking it off, saying goodbye, moving on, and then going back to the checklist and say, oh, maybe I forgot to do this on the checklist. And if not, that you just go to somebody else. Very important to learn because, like I said, not everybody is going to love us. And that's an important lesson to learn as well.
it's good that you try to depersonalize it because, right, it can feel so wounding and rejecting. But, right, as you say, you just have to accept that just like you don't like everyone, or you
Right.
maybe don't have things in common, you're just not a natural match. You're not going to be a natural match for people as well. So it's good to try to take the sting out of that.
Absolutely. I mean, every one of us has been rejected. No one loves it. I mean, no one loves it. It's just a part of life. And I do have like a little, section about it, just shaking it off, going back to the checklist and moving on. I mean, it's just part of it. It's just part of it.
And it's interesting, just even hearing these tips, a lot of them are also applicable like for adults and like in interviewing for like what we do when you're looking for a job and um, helping people find a place. Maybe you could share some interview tips based on these factors, which really are universal for everyone.
Thank you. Yes, I agree. I mean, obviously, once again, through the basics of, preparing for an interview, you have to go in, you have to be prepared. You should research the company, have like, make sure you have like good body language, active listening, listen, when the interviewer is talking to you, and like give signals of nonverbal communication, like you're like nodding your head or yes, basically that you hear them, and reading their body language. Maybe you're talking too much and you see them looking antsy and to know when to back off. But again, some out of the box things to consider again when you're looking for an interview is, again, go in with positive self-talk. You
Yes.
can do this job. They're going, they're going to like you. You can do this job. Go in with the right attitude. Also, mental rehearsal. Besides actual rehearsal, you should be, doing your interview question and practicing like in real life with somebody else. Mentally rehearse it. See yourself being successful. See yourself getting the job. Mentally rehearse this. And then finally, something that's interesting, but you have to be a little bit careful with it. It's like they say when people are like getting along well, they start to mirror each other's body language. So I would say to somewhat mirror, as long as you're not being like weird about it, or you can still be natural. If they're very soft spoken, I mean, maybe don't be so exuberant. Try to basically, mirror their way. I actually I had gone for, I don't even know why I had applied for this one job when I was like right out of college. It was totally not a fit for me at all. But for some reason, I decided to go on the interview, and the gentleman was very soft spoken and just things that I am not. But I just tried to mirror his behavior, and I was surprised I was a non-fit, but they did offer me the job. And I thought I am not a fit, but I think he was offering it to me because we connected. I mirrored him, and I think it was good. And I always say, like, even if you're thinking it's not a fit, go through the whole interview process to get it. Then you can decide if you want it or not. But always go through it like you're going to get it, that they're going to want to hire you. You're the best person for this job, and connect with them.
Right. Those are great tips. And I also like your, I think you mentioned friend detective tip. That could also be used in an interview to try to find the commonalities,
Right.
your interviewer, because that's something to connect over.
Absolutely. Like I say, these skills could be used for everyone. Like, yes, I think it's, great when you can learn it young, but you can really, these skills are for adults too. I mean, it is difficult to be a socially awkward adult as well. These tips work for all.
Right. And I know when we were, talking beforehand, you said like it's right, it's better to like give this to your child's toolkit, right? So it's
Yes.
something you can give your child even, and if your social skills maybe could use some sprucing up as well,
Yes.
like you're giving a gift to your child. And like we all want the best for our children. Um, like, how would you recommend that a parent could help their child develop social skills? And also, like, right, maybe they're not as socially adept. So, what do you recommend?
So true. Well, first of all, I definitely would encourage that parents can watch the videos with the child. And of course, the video instruction, I try not to keep it too long, and I try to keep it fun. We have like interactive activities, like our body language is, I know Would You Rather was a very popular game. So would you rather like approach this person or that person in a group, whatever, but watch it with them, break it down if you have to into smaller chunks. It doesn't have to be done at the same time. So you can also, learn with them. But I basically say to parents, to be your child's social coach, especially if you have good social skills. Be a social coach to them. So, but there's a few rules with that. First of all, obviously, never embarrass them in front of their friends. You can quietly coach them or at a later time is one good thing. And also to try to keep it light. A lot of kids will be turned off if you're like, okay, now we're going to discuss what happened or, what did not work. So try to keep it light and fun. So what I used to do with my son is I would take him to the playground, and when we would sit on the bench, we would watch some of the other kids playing, and I would just be talking, and we might see some kids playing, and I'd say like, oh, what do you think's going on there? And you could just watch the body language, and he would, see what's happening. And we would talk about, what we thought was going down. So I guess, observing people with your child is definitely one way to do it. And another way is you can role play with them, either situations that may come up, or maybe you saw something in an interaction that you didn't love, but again, not embarrassing them, but role play how it could be done differently, as long as your child is open to it. So that's also a good approach. And then what I call like a post-game analysis, look at what happened after, and again, talk about it in a light conversational way, to see what went well, what didn't go well, what you could do better. So, and obviously read your child like clues,
Right.
expressions to make sure that they are still on board with this. Because if you make it like a thing, they may not want to do it with you anymore. So that's, pretty important.
Right. And I think 8 to 12 is a good sweet spot, maybe before
Yes,
they become a teenager and
right.
they want you a little less in their
Right,
personal
exactly.
business. Right. So
Yes.
not that it's
Yeah.
ever too late, but that might be a good time to do that. And
Also, like, why struggle, through so many years if you can make things easier? I mean, again, if they're learnable skills, why not like teach them younger is
right.
better. You know
And
what I
right, it's
mean?
so good that you emphasize that it's learnable skills. It's not just something you're born with. I mean,
Right.
some people are better than others, but you can become very adept learning the skills and being aware.
For sure. I remember even in college, my nan sent me the Dale Carnegie How to Influence and Influence People in College. Just, he teaches skills too. These are just things you can learn. But you're right. I mean, there's no doubt some people are just totally natural and totally magnetic. But I always talk about things like on a sliding scale, like there's lateral movement. You can improve them and learn. There are some definitive formulas. I think that some, people who are so socially adept don't realize it, but they are actually doing certain formulas that are helping them. They just don't, they've never broken it down into like learnable pieces. So I think, that's helpful to know. Just observe, model people who do it. It's
That,
just,
that is a great idea. And
yeah.
also, you always wonder someone whose social skills are so fantastic, maybe they study it as well. Like that it's not inborn. Like maybe if you got to know them better and that'd be something that they would admit, you'd be surprised. Like your aunt
Absolutely.
who went to finishing school.
Absolutely. I mean, I still love to hear about this stuff. I've heard someone refer to it as like the science of people, like a
Yes.
people science. And I thought, yes, like this is so interesting. Like, although like not in my course, like even more body language skills. Like I was at a restaurant and I was looking at people like I'm assuming they were on like one of their first dates. And I just found it so interesting to watch. Well, they weren't on their phone the whole time, but they were actually interacting. And it was so interesting to watch them and just to see how people behave. It's just fascinating to me.
Right. So where can people find your course?
So I have it on a couple of platforms. So, each platform has its positives and negatives. I have it on OutSchool, which is basically for 18 and under kind of platform. So that is one platform. And I also have it on a platform called Super Teacher. So that also gives you an option. And they're each, have their pros and cons and their some idiosyncrasies. I'll say for Super Teacher, something that I always mention as to help with any kind of frustration. When you do sign up with your email, it has to be in all lowercase letters. If you have a capital letter, it's not working. I did comment to the platform, people, but I have yet to see that they have fixed that. So just note that. But I do offer it in both places. And so whatever personal preference.
Right. We'll put a link in the show notes for both of those things. And you mentioned you had a coupon code for
Yes.
people will include the coupon code. And yeah, this is Bonnie's passion project. So, it's personal to
Sure
her
is.
and it's super exciting. And, it's a passion of mine as well. So I love that. Um, Bonnie, I'm wondering if
You.
you have a parting thought.
Yes, I mean, I guess what I would say is like I would try, for me to give my child every edge that they can. Being able to connect with others gives you a humongous like leg up in life. And something that I say as one of like my quotes is that like socially adept kids become socially adept as adults. So I guess I'll leave you with that parting thought.
That is fantastic. Bonnie, thanks so much for your time and sharing your passion project. This was fantastic.
Thank you, Jody. It was a pleasure to be here with you.
Thanks for listening to Tech Talent Today, brought to you by Claremont Technologies IT Staffing and Search. You can find out more at clearmonttech.com. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and share. See you next time.